I think definitions matter. And so I want to first talk, when we talk top down and bottom up, companies that stay around for a long time and companies that are on a constant growth curve, or in specific for me, publicly traded companies, you stay in business in two ways. So let's go back to a little bit of past, tell a little bit of story, past, present to future. It used to take 6 months to get somebody on board, and then 3 months more of training if it was good. Not everybody's is right, because maybe it's not a really defined group, whatever it might be.
Hi, all. So we're back from a long weekend after Thanksgiving, spending time and being grateful for our loved ones. Today, I have a very special guest with us who is all about driving global business transformation through innovation, leadership, and data excellence. Let's welcome Brian on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom, where he will tell us what's it like being a leader of a top, fast growing company, what he's learned along the way, and his experience as a leader leading a lot of individuals. Hi, Brian. How are you doing today?
Hi, Manal. Thank you so much. I'm doing very well. Thank you. I'm
Of
glad
course,
you had a good weekend.
I
You
did. How was
celebrate
your
with the
weekend?
family.
How was your weekend, Brian?
It was wonderful. Every time you can spend with friends, loved ones, or, for those of us who don't even have that, just time on your own where you can reflect and become a better person. I think it's wonderful.
I think it's very important to reflect and be thankful because sometimes we're so busy in this rat race that when we usually take a step back, we're like, oh, we've achieved a lot. We have a lot to be grateful for. So I'm glad you had that time with your family. So, Brian, let's get into it. As chief of staff of a fast growing company, how do you balance bottom up and top down approaches to foster a culture of continuous improvement at your current company?
That is a really good one. So, let's first, I think definitions matter. And so I want to first talk, when you talk top down and bottom up, companies that stay around for a long time and companies that are on a constant growth curve, or in specific for me, publicly traded companies, you stay in business in two ways. One is you bring in new top talent. Of course, you always got to refresh the pipeline. Two, you have to invest in those that are there. And this is important because a good portion of your staff is really about maintaining the bottom line. So you have strong processes and procedures. This is important because when you look at top down, that follows more of a power law curve. And you look at bottom up, it's more of a bell curve. How you can bring people along for talking about people. If you're going to bring in a new tool, how the people will react with that. So this is important because if you don't look at both approaches, then if you have, say, a CEO working on just a bell curve, for an example, well, we're going to have a little bit of a problem. It's going to be very hard for those leaders to feel empowered to push a new idea. Now, a bell curve will work with your A level people, right? The people that always jump on board with the new idea. And part of your B plus people, the B group, right? So if you think of a bell curve, right, you can think of A, B, C, D, and F. And all that is we all fit into one of those buckets at certain times, depending on the question. And it's how quickly we adapt or change. And so within that, you have to really work both if you want to change a large organization. I'm going to define that. I said definitions are important. And this is going to be the scary part. 300,000 or down to 200 people. That's the number. Mathematically, it becomes difficult over 200. Under 200 people, you can actually change it a little bit faster than you normally could. Over 200 people, it's the same process you have to follow. You're talking in numbers of days versus months. When you're at 220 versus 240, and it's just not a mathematical thing to bother with. So when I say everybody choose the size company you want, this matters. If you're at a 100-person company, they can change rapidly. They can go left and pivot right, and it's super exciting. And a lot of times, under 200 people, you can use a power law curve. I'm saying go do X, figure it out. I trust you. You're the best of the best. And that's how startups run. And it's great. It's exciting all the time, right? And a lot of thrill seekers love this. So if you're watching this and you're a thrill seeker, you probably want a type of startup or something that's failed and it's going to reinvent itself, or they need that quick change and ability to not be stuck on, oh no, it must be this way or this will break. At large companies, you have very strong foundations. I'm thinking of a pillar foundation here, a little bit smaller one, where you're going to look at, I'm going to change something. So you have a little bit of a shift, right? And that becomes your transformation. And then way up top, you have your strategy, your big thing. That's your aspirational, maybe 4 years. But at a mega sized company, that foundation, if you break it, you start disappointing all the customers you currently have. If everybody expects Colgate toothpaste, to be white and beautiful, to make your teeth white, even though it's not necessarily true. You have like the charcoal toothpaste, which does a better job, or the purple that's out there now, right? But in our minds as consumers, well, I don't want this. It's gray now. It must not be good. Purple? No way. So you got to think of, a power law curve, a Gaussian curve, or Pareto curve. So that's the power law and the bell curve. You have to think of them as part of your continuous improvement and how you think about things from two ways. So when we go top down, we can use more of the power law. We got to change X, Y, and Z. We're going to start by telling the leaders, you've got freedom, you have this empowered. You have to be with the people, you have to be clear, and you have to be transparent. Now, bottom up. Well, bottom up, if you aren't transparent, there's no trust, right? So the leaders have to be empowered to be clear and have that trust. And so for a bottom up change or anything to happen, or bringing in new people, new life, they have to understand the why and be given a clear direction as for that. And then what happens is you let them bring you how it's going to happen. Recruiters, I don't know how to do this. We're bringing in this new focus to make sure everybody's open minded and we're not putting in words into resumes that are better suited for one person or another or keep people from applying. I promise you this, everybody watching this, I want the best talent possible coming in. I don't care where you came from, what your background is, or any of these pieces. I care who you are as an individual so that you can become part of our foundation. And to that end, if I use the wrong words in that resume, when I use the wrong words in what I'm looking for you to put in your resume or to match to, then some people won't apply because they think, oh, I only do half that. It became very popular in the West to have have a list 2 pages long of all these skills and requirements. Nobody has all those and does them well. It's not possible. It's like going into a restaurant where you have like 5, 6 pages. That cook cannot cook all those things well. It is not possible, right? A small menu's better. We've worked at Cognizant, for an example, to make certain it's very clear. And we don't necessarily believe, well, you have to have all these great educational requirements. Don't have one. What'd you do the last 5 years? What'd you do in the last 2? What separates you? You want to be able to explain to somebody coming in who you are. That's what people look for. At the publicly traded companies, who are you? So we can match you to the right business sector or people that have the right thought process that you merge in with, right? It could be completely different from everybody because it's a design team and they need a new thought. Like everybody's been doing the same thing, it's not working. Okay, you've got a different way of looking at a sequence of code over a 5-year period. If you're a coder out there, we have a mess of it's part SQL, it's MySQL, we got a little Java, we've got WordPress mixed into something nobody even knows why anymore, or even how it got there. Well, now you come in and go, no, 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 no. That's slowing down the server process rate so much. It could be done in 30 minutes, but it takes 6 hours to run a million records. Guess what? You got a new idea because they're not thinking that way. They're stuck in an old mindset. That's always refreshing the blood, if you will, the spirit within a company. So we look at both those to get full circle, the power law and the bell curve, which I summarized the bottom up and top down for a following point.
I
Getting
love
in new people and helping your leaders understand more brings in greater innovation and greater improvements. Large companies want this.
I think you touched upon a lot of things, which brought me to my follow-up question, which is because your role, Brian, is in continuous improvement, how do you encourage innovation within your team? Because when you're attracting top talent, you really want to make sure that all the processes are like perfect, they're seamless. Candidates don't have to sit waiting. You're ensuring that they have the best candidate experience because that is essentially a reflection of when they'll be joining your company. So, as chief of staff, how do you ensure that the transition is seamless where candidates come in, where they see a reflection of the company and what they're getting themselves into?
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant question. So let's go back to a little bit of past, tell a little bit of story, past, present to future. It used to take 6 months to get somebody on board, and then 3 months more of training if it was good. Not everybody's is right, because maybe it's not a really defined group, whatever it might be. So in essence, then you're not contributing to your group or to the company for almost a year away. And then we'd lose people. We'd lose good people who have maybe on with 6 because they're like, look, I'm not doing anything. I'll go somewhere else and code. I'll go to Amazon. I'll go to Google. I'll go to, I thought I could do something for healthcare with you. And so we said, all right, let's look at this. What is the MVP? What do we really need from them? so that we can get them what we want. And part of this with the AI change, we've actually added that in for ourselves to help reduce that onboarding so that you have more information in front of you, you can read, you can understand where it was. And we're trying to be clear. Here's where we are. Help us be to the next place. Empowerment has to start early on. We do something really good, and I'm very proud of Cognizant for this, that one of the things we do is we have vast amounts of training. But when you come on board, it can be too much. So we isolate it to your role and specific to you, to what other leaders have said are the right things to look at. You can do it, at random times, whatever works for you. But your managers also give you time to be able to look at it and do it. They're supportive. And so, how do we make sure that people are bringing in innovation and improvements? It starts with us at the top, making certain, coming top down, that everybody knows there's time. I make certain there's time on everybody's calendar. Right now it's about 5,000 people. There's 15 minutes on everybody's calendar once a week. Just stop, take a deep breath.
Oh,
What
wow.
would make your world better? I'm asking very specific. Not that you have to do it, not that you have to build it, but what could improve it if it happened? Is it a tool that you don't even know about? It's okay to not know. Help me. And that's actually how we knew how to bring AI into almost 400,000 person company and where to bring it first. Everybody told us, I need it here. I need it here. I need it over here. Listening is a key piece from the top down. Now, bottom up, we said, how? And you heard a little bit of that story of how. How did we get it going? We said, tell us. We made a single place for everybody to go put all their ideas and opportunities and tell us. And next year, we're going to launch it for customers too. So customers can help us, help them be better. We've always talked it, right? You've grown up. Everybody's always heard, help us help you. Tell me what you need. Grandma says it to you. What is it you want? You don't always know what you want. But when you can see other ideas out there, like, yeah, that'd be good for me. Oh, this would be great. I got an idea. It would help this, but I don't know how many other people have to help build it. That's okay. But leadership needs to know your manager, your manager's manager. And guess what? Next thing you know, you have it. We listened.
I love that.
If you're
Sorry, go ahead.
if you're talking to a place and you feel like they're not listening to you and they say words like mine, but then they don't act on them, then that means there's might be a culture problem there where everybody's not bought into it. And if you have leadership that doesn't buy into it, it's not going to happen. Because then, as a manager, way down, first line manager, let's say I was an engineer and I just got promoted. I'm not going to do anything to rock the boat. You have to be given, you have to be told, and you have to see it, not just hear it. You have to see it with your own eyes that they're living by what they're saying. That builds trust. And we work very hard at that. Good companies will work hard at that.
I think that is amazing. I think you as a leader showcase how important culture is. And one of the biggest problems that currently is going on is a lot of people listen to respond rather than listen to understand. And when you establish that listening to understand, you can get so much information and establish that sense of trust that leads to innovation where people can come in, feel free to make mistakes, but mostly collaborate and work towards a bigger solution. So thank you so much for sharing that, Brian. Brian, my next question for you is, as chief of staff, what does your day to day look like? Can you maybe get into that?
Well, you've already gotten a little bit of sense of that. When we book one, two, three, five times. So I think there are two types of chief of staff people out there. One acts more as an administrator, and one acts more as an attorney, if you will. I act more as that attorney side, and overseas sometimes we call them deputy chief of staff. It is the title. Here we just call them chief of staff, and it's defined. So for me, so understanding the definition of the two, for me, I look across the organization on what's happening, and I look in the media and everything else, what's going on. And my job is really to protect the leaders and make certain we're staying on top of the latest information that will be helpful to Cognizant and its staff so we improve together. Sometimes that means it's a top down change in things, right? One of those I already alluded to was when we're asking people for resumes, they're looking at our job description to make sure they can match to it. No two-page job description. One page. You can have 4 or 5 bullets on each segment. That's it. And be clear. If you don't need a PhD, you say what you need. And you're going to start finding that some of them don't even ask for any college degrees or anything. I don't. With certifications out there, you could have a 1 year certification in security. And guess what? We're probably going to hire you because security is a huge thing with all the cyber attacks going on. It's really important. And so you can go train yourself right now with a couple books and everything else, and then repeat, 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 become good at it. Medicine in the US, they do the same thing. Doctors train and they become specialized by repeating the same thing. Lawyers do the same thing. I only do injury law, injury law. The injury lawyers aren't going to go take care of a domestic estate for a divorce or for a member passes away. They're going to deal with injury because they get very good at it. And that's how they become efficient. When you create your own efficiency as a person, that's something you talk about in an interview. Talk about who you are, what you bring to the table. You have something, trust me. So what if 100,000 other people have that same tenacity you do and the same outlook and your same background? It's okay. You're here now in the interview. This is what you bring to the table. I hope that's helpful. But my
No.
day to day is looking at these different pieces and saying, where are we going to go next? And then I do look at part of the day and say, how's everybody coming along that bell curve, right? How are the leaders coming along the power curve? They're giving the message, and they're like, oh, I'm not so sure I'm going to give that message, right? I do test those things. We test them, we call it CX and EX, so customer experience and employee experience. So I test from the outside and the inside. So half my job is actually testing in numbers, and the other half is what's coming up next? What could negatively affect our senior leadership
So
that's happening in the
you're
industry?
essentially the glue that holds different parts of the organization together, which must be a lot of responsibility. But by the way you speak of it, it seems like you really enjoy your job and making a
You
difference in so many
gotta like it. You just said the most important thing. I will. I was watching a guru the other day. So, if you could do anything you want and you didn't have to worry about stuff, none of us would probably hold jobs. We'd all be doing something. I might be a painter, though I can't even imagine painting because I don't see color well. But you don't know. But you have to do what you have to do. So you get your hands dirty and you do it because I got to feed a family. I want a different life, and sometimes it takes 3 to 5 years to get there. Great. That's tenacity. That's going for what you want. You creating this podcast, was that easy? You had to find something that matched yourself, your desire to do multiple different things, and you did it. So, how many years did you spend trying to figure that out and getting it? You didn't give up. That will drive you finding that place of what's joyful to you and happy. Sure, if this role wasn't here 100 years ago, right, I would be something different and I'd find a way to be happy. I am more of a strategist who likes looking and seeing the next coming thing. And that's for me, I'm a strategist who really likes people. I believe in being clear. I believe in being transparent. I'm telling you exactly who I am as a person. Beyond that, I don't do as well just getting stuff done. I don't mind getting my hands dirty and replacing a toilet and changing some plumbing. That's for myself. But I wouldn't want to do it every day if I had a choice. If I didn't, I'd absolutely get up and do it. Right? So this is where currently, I find great ability because I enjoy it. It's part of who I am. It allows me to work with people, see and design those strategies. Horizon models are big now for mid-level management, so they can kind of see where they're going and how it's happening. But there are multiple other models, depending if you're looking at marketing, if it's computer science. You get the idea.
Okay, no, thank you so much for sharing that. Brian, last question. So, Brian, we've seen a wave of layoffs. A lot of people are being laid off. According to you, as chief of staff, having interviewed so many people, having invented so many different processes when it comes to recruitment, what is one thing in a candidate that pops out to you when they are interviewing that can make them stand out amongst thousands of other applicants who might be applying for a similar job?
So let me first comment on so many jobs being lost and changing out there. Because I want people to have belief, not just hope. I believe in three. You got hope, belief, and faith. You can never fight a faith believer. They know it. That's it. Doesn't matter. But I want you to have belief that when these things happen in the market and jobs go, it's because companies are restructuring and figuring it out. Where large companies might shift, that means a whole bunch of roles are now open. People that wouldn't work for a small new startup will now want it. And that's where these other areas will change. So where one thing goes, people are people. We're going to work and do something. We have to. That's part of who we are. So don't let the fear of something like that discourage you from going forth and taking the time and effort to go after what you want. That's important. Now, what are the attributes that I think everybody would look for? And whether it's been at the current company I'm at or any of the other large companies, and again, I'm speaking from a publicly traded $1 billion, so mega sized company, I would sum it up into two simple things. Are you tenacious? And do you have common sense? If you have those two things, I can teach you anything. I don't need you to know it. Now, if you happen to be going for a leader role or something else, it's really helpful to put yourself to the top of the pack, if you will, in terms of job descriptions by having experience in an area, specifically answering or stating in your resume versus the job description, or the exact words, just cut and paste them over, right? Run it through an ATS system so that you can make sure that it matches so that you get moved to the top of the list. There's a computer, there's so many people that apply that brings those applicants that took the time and attention. When I get a resume in front of me that's matched, I know you took the time and attention, you actually read it, so you definitely know you would come and work here if you get offered. Because I don't want to waste your time, I don't want to waste mine. But those are two things that put you, when I'm talking with you, to the top of the pile. Second is, I want to see that I can build trust with you. Can you answer your questions within 1 to 3 seconds fast? That doesn't mean you don't think about it, but I'm asking you questions. I don't ask you questions. It's not like I'm asking you a math question where I'm like, how would you build the Eiffel Tower out of quarters? That one you can take a second and think about it, right? I'm asking you things about you and you should be able to just answer. And if I feel like you can't, then I feel like you're being dishonest. And so I'll first ask a candidate about who they are. Tell me who you are. It has nothing to do with business. I want to know who you are. And I told everybody on this podcast who I am. I care about three things: people, being clear, and being transparent. If you can't join me with that, we won't work well together. So we probably won't. Because that's what builds these things, right? That's what builds society. I didn't make these up. I took them from other great leaders in religious institutions. So, from that perspective, boil it down to the two things you do well. Let's say you're not known to have common sense, but you drive at learning whatever the next thing is. Okay, so you're tenacious and you don't give up. That is kind of what tenacious means. So reword it then. Go, okay, I don't want to say I'm tenacious a second time. I'm tenacious and I'm great at research. But I need a leader who'll help point out when I'm wrong. Okay. Now you're showing me you know who you are. That brings us to the other part. Other things you could tell me about. Prove to me you know what your weaknesses are and your strengths. I'm not the best public speaker. Okay. Definitely don't go for a public speaking job. It's not for you. Part of mine is public speaking. So there's a lot of classes I have to take through a year and continuously improve myself to make certain I'm staying on board. The other thing I would say is absolutely make certain you're not lying. You won't trust yourself in it. Don't change your resume, just state the truth. And if companies don't want to hear the truth, that's on them. You want to go where you're respected and where you can be part of everything. And if they don't represent that to you while you're interviewing, this is your chance to interview us as well. We need to be just as good. And remember, people are people. What I mean by that is interviewers aren't like professional interviewers, they're managers of a technical team or managers of a marketing team. And they're asking preset questions. They really just want to know, are you one, a fit with us, right? Two, do you like it or are you just trying to find a job? Don't just try to find a job. Find something that actually interests you. Maybe it's art, and the best we're going to do to satisfy that need with you to be artistic is marketing and design. So, a little bit of web design. I hope that's helpful. I believe everybody can have the role they want.
I think
Now
that's
it's just a matter of time and knowledge.
I love that. I think you touched upon a lot of important things, Brian, but specifically, I think I love the fact that you mentioned that it's a two-way street where a company might be interviewing you, but you really need to interview the company to ensure that you're a good fit, which is what a lot of company people, candidates don't do. They might be looking for a job where they're like, oh, I like this company, they're offering me a job, I'll go for it. But then 6, 7 months down the lane, they're like, oh, I don't feel like I fit in. And why? Because that's why they did not check out the culture, which essentially lead to problems. And then the candidate ends up leaving the company. So thank you so much. But other than that, Brian, our time is up. It was absolutely a pleasure learning from you, from your experiences, from your top down, bottom down approaches, your inspiration towards innovation and ensuring that your team members and everyone is part of a bigger
Well, thank
solution,
you for
which
your
is
time
something that's
today.
very
Thank you to your
inspiring. Thank
viewers.
you so much
Have a
for
great
coming
day.
on.